Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So it seems like we have some new news about Darth Vader in the new Kenobi show. So the director has gone on to say something about him, so let's go ahead and read it, and then I can give my 2 cents on it. The debate around whether we should do that or not carried on for quite some time, and she's talking about putting Vader in the show or not. Now, I don't know if the leaks about Darth Maul having been originally in the show are true or not, and then them eventually deciding that Vader is the right one. But this obviously is a very logical decision, as I feel like the most prominent person in Kenobi's life is Darth Vader. So if you're going to have a show about Kenobi, you really need to incorporate Darth Vader in there because, well, he's the reason why the show is the way it is, why the timeline is the way it is, because he did those things. EW goes to say that they talked to the director of the Kenobi show, Deborah Chow, who also worked on The Mandalorian, to give her take on why they incorporated Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker and what it was like to work with Hayden Christensen. Honestly, for me, the starting place was that I really wanted to do something that was character-based and character-driven, because that is the benefit of the limited series, is that you have more time to sort of tell a real character story. And so for me, the starting place of character is you just start and look at who has been important to him in his life. And it's quite hard to avoid Anakin Vader in that scenario, especially coming out of Revenge of the Sith. So spot on, exactly what I was thinking. You know, one of the most important people in Kenobi's life and to the timeline of Star Wars is Anakin, is Darth Vader. He is the chosen one. He is the main character. As George Lucas has said, it is all about Anakin. Now, George did always say that Luke was the catalyst, so he wasn't the chosen one. And I really do abide by that rule as well. How was it working with Hayden Christensen? He's lovely and he's absolutely wonderful and Canadian. So the first time I met him actually was in Toronto, and it was really nice because we sort of met up in Canada. And obviously both with people like Ewan and Hayden, they've been these characters for so long, and they obviously did them in the prequels, and they've lived with this character in their lives for so long that they just know the character so well, which makes it so helpful in terms of the creative, which is very true, man. Like, you know, nobody knows Luke Skywalker better than, of course, George Lucas, but the second person would be Mark Hamill, because he is Luke Skywalker. All of the little nuances, all of the little directorial cues that George gave Mark was all to propel the story and arc and evolve the character of Luke Skywalker. Of course they're actors, of course they read a script, but when you embody this character and sort of bring it to fruition from the very basis of its inception to its final form, with George Lucas having seen his character go from point A to point B, which is A New Hope, to Return of the Jedi. Now, whatever happens after that is whatever happens. We're talking about George and what he saw for his character when he originally wrote it. There are so many things beyond just the film aspect of being able to judge a character that goes into a scene when you are directing someone. When George was directing Mark Hamill, I mean, there must have been so many different phone conversations behind the scenes that were never recorded or filmed, behind closed doors, things about Luke that nobody will ever know, and only things that Mark Hamill and George Lucas know that they've discussed and talked about. And Mark may have asked, you know, well, what about this scenario? Or how is Luke in this scenario, that scenario? And these are things that we may never know. We may come close, but these are obviously cues that only the actor can know. And so this happens with every single character, you know, Lando, Han Solo, Vader, Anakin, Obi-Wan, everybody. So these characters, while they are just actors playing these characters, they know the characters the very best. And I think when it comes to evolving these characters, I think it's really important to incorporate a lot of their ideas, at least listen to them. So I think it's really great that she recognizes the fact that Anakin was played by Hayden, and Hayden and Ewan know these characters exceptionally well. What was it like when Darth Vader first showed up on set? Obviously, Hayden was going to be part of this series, and when he first came onto set for us, it definitely had a very special feeling. And it was a really interesting moment for me because you really started to see the different generations and how they connect to Star Wars and the franchise, where you have a generation that grew up with the prequels first and with Hayden. It's a totally different thing for them than a generation that grew up with the originals. And then there's younger generations with the new ones. So it felt really special bringing him back. And obviously I'm Canadian and he's Canadian, so that was very heartwarming for me. We were having some Canadian pride on that day. What were the feelings for you working with that iconic character? Ewan McGregor told me he couldn't figure out why everyone on set was so excited one day, and then he looked over and saw Vader and was like, ah, F, of course. The first time I saw him in costume and the full thing going, he's towering over me. He's like literally almost twice my size, it felt like. It's really intense to have such an iconic character and then to be directing him and to be doing new scenes with him. So I do remember poor Ewan on that day. He's like, what am I, chopped liver by comparison now? But I know that for Vader, it's something that it's almost part of our consciousness because we've all had it in our lives for so long that to actually see him on set, it's pretty sort of magnificent. It's kind of moving. Now, my experience with this, if you've never seen Vader, like a proper Vader suit, and someone towering, with the proper boots that have the lifts, or if someone is actually like 6'8", 6'9", you don't know how imposing it actually is. And I came across this for the very first time when I saw Dupree in the suit, who played Vader in the fan film and will be reprising his role in the second one. It's actually quite intimidating. Like, Vader's a really cool character, but it's not real. He's just a cool sci-fi character. But when you see him up close in person and you're like, he's towering over you, he's just this big figure with this big black mask, and it's actually kind of terrifying. It's definitely an experience. So if you haven't experienced that with a proper suit, I don't mean just like some regular random suit or even like some decent one. I mean like a real scaled suit from the films. That thing is amazing to see in person. And to see someone in it who's moving just like Vader, because you have to have the movements down very, very perfectly. There's a certain, not just cadence to his voice, but the cadence to the way he moves, a certain grace that he has. He has a certain, how his limbs move, his walk, how he shifts his weight, his very quick turns that he does. These are all just very iconic things that we know subconsciously. And if those are hit on mark and on cue, then it's like you don't think about it if it's there, but you will recognize it if it's not there. And you'll be like, something doesn't feel right with Vader here. And having seen that in person is actually pretty cool. What kind of Vader will we see here on the show? We only saw him for a few very quick scenes at the end of Revenge of the Sith in that armor. So where does he pick up 10 years later? For us, it's very similar to Obi-Wan in the sense that he's in between these two trilogies. So he isn't the New Hope Vader quite yet. You know what I mean? So we are with the character sort of in the middle of this period. It is still Vader, obviously, but it's a Vader that isn't quite as fully formed as A New Hope. Dude, this is exactly what I've been talking about, man. This is the Vader right in between both films. So he's not Anakin, he's not Darth Vader, if we want to think of A New Hope Vader as fully Darth Vader. He is literally cut in half. He is half Anakin, half Vader. And this is definitely the most interesting and, I would say, adventurous time for us to be viewing Vader, because he has to basically fight between the light and darkness like he has never fought before. Whereas before in Revenge of the Sith or Attack of the Clones, he was much more on the light with glimmers of darkness, and he was fighting the darkness away. Now he is fully on the, well, not fully, he is quite on the darkness, but he has glimmers of light. And this is going to be very, very interesting. And if they do a battle between Vader and Obi-Wan, I think it could actually work in the sense that Obi-Wan tries to turn him to the light side. And this would definitely, hearken to when Vader says to Luke, Obi-Wan once thought as you do in Return of the Jedi. And now I'm starting to really like the wheels are turning. I think this would actually make sense. When Obi-Wan tries to turn Vader, maybe Vader will kick his butt, and then the second time they meet, Obi-Wan will really have to crank up the heat and to kind of show him, well, look, I still got it. I still have my abilities. You may be really powerful, but I can still hold my own and protect the boy, which Vader has no clue about yet. So this is going to be a really interesting show just on that premise alone. Forget Obi-Wan, forget everybody else, forget the Inquisitors. Vader himself is probably going to be the most torn and interesting of a character that we have seen yet. It's going to be a wild ride, and I hope I'm not wrong, but the way that she has said that these actors have been playing these characters for so long and they know them so well, tells me that she is definitely at least open to listening to the things they may have to say and the things that they may be comfortable with, because these boys are coming from George. They have been trained by George with who these characters are. And this is one reason why after this interview, I'm not as worried about this show. Not that I really was to begin with, but this just kind of just takes out any doubt that could have possibly been there. I'm hopeful, man. I think this is going to be probably one of the best shows yet. And I hope I'm not wrong. I would be crushed. Most of my content on this channel has been about the prequels. And, you know, I went through years of people being like, why are you just covering the prequels? Why are you just talking about it? It's like, well, prequels are kind of my favorite. And I love Anakin. I love Vader. I think he's the coolest character. I think he's such an interesting, iconic, and complex character that if you really break him down, you'll see that he is actually quite pathetic, but he's really quite human, and he overcomes so many goddamn obstacles that it's quite heroic, and it's very, very inspiring to see. I will have a lot to say about this show when it comes out, and I can't wait to experience it all with you guys. I hope you guys like the new lights. They finally got installed. They took like 6 months to make, and yeah, they're gonna be a nice addition to the channel. You can check it out. I can change the colors and stuff too, so we can go like, I don't know, blue or something for both of them. Yeah, that's pretty sick. Or we can go white. Where's the white? There we go. That's pretty cool. Oh, that's pretty cool too. What color do you guys like most? What are you excited for about this show? Are you hopeful? Are you worried about it in any sense? Any way at all? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be chiming in with everybody else commenting. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you.